the question I get the most is, what is the profound opportunity coming out of COVID? What's the big unlock coming out of COVID-19? And people think I'm going to talk about investing in Web3. I believe this is the unlock. And I presented to a variety of organizations. I struggle with happiness, which probably doesn't come as a big surprise. I have blessings of this, I have happiness of this. So I wrote a book on happiness because I wanted to try and figure it out. And across every major study on happiness, everything distills down to one thing, and that is the number of deep and meaningful relationships you have. Period, full stop, across income, demographic, and cultural groups. Amongst your friends, do you feel a sense of joy and camaraderie? And just as importantly, do you know they get joy and camaraderie from you? Across work, do you feel respected and admired? And do you respect and admire other people? And with your family or within your family, do you feel intense levels of support? And just as importantly, do you know they are intensely loved and supported by you?
Yeah, so it's right before Christmas, and that's when society most shoves in our faces that, yeah, this is the truth about life, that life is about family and friends, and that's the most important thing. And it is for most people, the vast majority of people, and I think that's wonderful. And I myself, I had phases in my life where I had a lot of friends, where I had family, was maintaining close relationships with members of my family. But if you're autistic, it's not that easy, and it can be very, very difficult to maintain these relationships or build them. And in fact, I started this channel not knowing I was autistic, because I felt that getting to know people and socializing with them, talking with them, it can be difficult, but it's something that can be learned. So I wanted to pass on my tips and tricks. Of course, now I know I'm autistic, so it's definitely difficult for people with autism, and it's difficult right before Christmas when it really feels we are like weird and we are just not right, when you see all these scenes in everything from commercials to movies of just close families, big parties, tons of friends, everybody having fun together, and it makes you wonder. But I wanted to record this video because for autistic people, we actually have other sources for intense happiness typically. And I wanted to pick some extreme examples, I don't think that Leonardo da Vinci at the end of his life thought, I wish I would have just studied less sculpture and painting and anatomy and all these things and spent more time with friends and family. Probably not. Same with Charles Darwin. He probably didn't think at the end of his life, I wish I would have scribbled less in my notebook and done less research, and instead spent more time with friends and family. And I think while most voices, like Scott Galloway of that clip that we watched, the loudest voices in society are neurotypical, and they shape the general understanding of like the meaning of life and basic truths of life very often. But autistic people maybe pipe up less often, but they also have valid points. They have maybe a little different way of living, and that doesn't mean if you're autistic that you don't have family and friends, and hopefully you do, and it really is such a wonderful thing. However, obviously with our special interests, we can have intense sources of happiness away from others, and that's an okay way for living too. Anyway, it's the time before Christmas, and a lot of people feel extra bad if they don't have that loving family, especially. So I figured it's important to remember that autism runs in families. So even neurotypical people often have struggles, family struggles. Their families are often not as close-knit as they might seem. And of course, if you have autism running in a family with potentially the parents having difficulty social interacting, and that doesn't go away just because it's a relative. Same with kids or with siblings. So it can be very, very hard. And then, of course, because it is a social disability, I want to say, and you are not as well versed socially at let's say 25 as your peers are, it can even happen, and that happened definitely with me. If you're just not as adept at knowing what you want, being able to read people and all that, you might end up marrying the wrong person in your 20s, when really maybe socially you only have the maturity of a 15-year-old or 16-year-old, and you make mistakes, and then these mistakes sometimes end up in life where it's not working out for you. You come from a family that's kind of broken, you created a family and that's also kind of broken, and it can make you feel it can be very difficult. But even before I knew I was autistic, I forgave myself for all the mistakes I made, more or less, because I felt I had not really learned how adults interact growing up. And so I had to kind of learn it over the years, and it just took me a long time. So of course, now that I know I'm autistic, I forgive myself even more. I just did not have it would have been a real lucky chance if everything would have worked out for me. And I want to compare a little bit, because autism can be kind of, it can be invisible, and people look completely normal, act like semi-normal, and I want to, one of my favorite shows I used to watch a lot of the show Hoarders, and that's of course a show where some mental challenges that family members have express themselves in their surroundings so clearly that you absolutely see what is going on inside that person just by what's around them. And what I like about the show is not just that you see a lot of the rationalizing, that you feel that the person thinks they're completely okay, but they're so clearly not okay, but also the family interaction, because typically, they have the for example, kids of the hoarding person fly in and try to help with the cleanup and stuff, and then you have like these big family blow-ups, and then maybe the big reunion, or just makeup scene where everybody at the end loves each other. But then typically they have the end cards of what happens after the show ends, and very often it's the parent goes back to hoarding and the children fly back to where they came from, and they continue having little or no contact with the parent, because they can't, you can clearly see in the show that is not the fault of the child that they can't keep contact with a parent. It's just the issues are too large. And with hoarding, you can see it. With autism, it's just often hard to pinpoint, and an outsider might be very judgmental. But I think this attitude that people like Scott Galloway in the beginning clip express, like that if you're a child, you have to have contact with your parents, you have to be a caregiver, you have to be caregiver to your siblings, and you have to reach out to your friends, and you have to socialize all the time. That's just, it's just, it shouldn't matter that much. If that advice works for you, it's wonderful, but socializing takes a lot out of an autistic person, and we only have so much energy to do social things. And apparently I don't have much energy today to talk, because somehow it's like I feel it's difficult to get the words out. But then again, I was sitting here and somebody was like blowing leaves outside for over an hour, and I had to wait because of the noise. So it's crazy how little things affect us. And I certainly notice that it gets more and more difficult to talk the more stressed you get. So my heart goes out to all the people who have to, travel for Christmas and meet relatives and maybe are a little bit autistic because, between all the stress from traveling and then the stress of maybe reconnecting with somebody you haven't seen in a while, a close family member, and then having to talk a lot. I mean, that's just a lot. But it made me want to record this video, and I don't know how much of my rambling I actually cut out of this. I wanted to make a short video, but that's just how it goes, I guess. Yeah, if you're autistic, know your strengths. Don't feel bad if you maybe get more happiness out of some solitary activity, out of your special interest, than you get from socializing with others. If you're neurotypical and you reach out to your autistic friends, if you know if they're autistic or not, I mean, you're like the meme says, you're the real MVP. I mean, I've in my life had a number of men and women who would just regularly reach out to me if I wanted to do something, if I want to go hiking, if I want to go out, if I just wanted to get together for coffee or whatever, and I love it so much, and I wonder how they do it, because I get discouraged if I reach out to somebody and they say no, and I very often just say, oh, it's so wonderful that you're offering, but right now I'm super busy, can we do it some other time? And I've known people who still then reach out, not constantly, but every few months they check on you, and that's such a wonderful thing. And I hope for all you fellow autistic people out there, that you have such people in your life, or find them, and then you really express how much it means to you that they reach out. Yeah, well, I've rambled enough, so I'm gonna wrap it up here, and see you in the next video. Bye.